Private music. Before World War II, it really wasn't a thing. Then we got the transistor and recorded music went portable. We didn't know where it would take us.
And get off my lawn!
Editor CJ here. See this lock of hair? You will, all through the video. I didn't notice until I was editing. Oh well. On the bright side, it helps to prove I'm not an AI. Probably. Now, back to the geezer. Hi everyone. Thanks for stopping by. I'm CJ, and today we're talking about how the ability to take music with you has been an agent of change. As the technology has changed, so have we. And the best thing, today I have props. So stick around for that. And of course, like and subscribe. At present, that's the best way to help out the channel and encourage me to keep on keeping on. When I say private music, I'm talking about personal listening. Music you control, music you choose, music that's yours, and especially music you can take with you. Not the radio your parents played in the living room. Okay, my parents played in the living room. Not the jukebox at the diner. Your music, on your terms. And over the past 60 years, that experience has changed dramatically. Let's start at the beginning, the transistor radio. And here's a perfect example. This is a Hitachi TH666 that my dad bought in Japan in the late 50s. AM only, powered by a 9-volt battery, dry cell because alkalines weren't around yet, 6 transistors, and depending on the year he got it, it's sold for between $50 and $100, which is about $550 to $1,100 in today's dollars. New tech has always been expensive. What made it special was its size and durability. Gone were the vacuum tubes that burned out all the time. It was solid state. More importantly, you could take your transistor radio to the park, to your room, to the beach, and listen to whatever the DJ was playing. You had no control over what you heard on the station, but you had control over where you heard it, and that was revolutionary. The sound quality was terrible. The earpiece was uncomfortable and the tip always seemed to be bent. And you were at the mercy of the radio stations. But it was yours, and that mattered. As the 60s rolled along, a new format arrived, the 8-track tape. Now, 8-tracks existed in homes too, but where they really mattered was in cars. For the first time, you could curate your own listening experience on a road trip. You picked the album, you picked the groove, you were the DJ. Of course, 8-tracks had their quirks. Tracks would fade out mid-song to switch tracks and then fade back in. The sound quality was fine, especially for new tapes, but the tapes degraded fast, especially if you left them in a hot car, which, let's be honest, you did. But still, you owned the music. You chose the music. And if your 8-track jammed in the middle of Stairway to Heaven, well, that was just part of the experience. As was learning how to repair them. By the late 70s, it was time for another leveling up. And we had gotten used to cassette tapes, and most of us had cassette recorders at home. But then we got the Sony Walkman. It was a game changer. This was really the first truly portable, private, and high-fidelity option. With those small, over-ear foam-padded headphones, you could walk down your street with your own soundtrack. You could tune out the world completely, and we did. Now this is a Sony Walkman from the time, model WM1, which confusingly came after WM2 and was the third Walkman model released, kind of like Star Wars. This set me back about $100 when it was new, about $390 today. Pricey, but I was going on a trip and that made it worth it. The Walkman was freedom. You could listen to whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, wherever you wanted. The downsides, you had to bring tapes with you and a pencil. If you know, you know. Cassettes wore out, the tape broke, the tape jammed. You had to rewind it if you didn't want to play through both sides of the tape. Battery life was terrible, and if you wanted to skip a song, good luck. You had to fast forward and guess. But none of that mattered. The Walkman was the moment music truly became personal. Now, while the Walkman was about private listening, the boombox was the exact opposite. Boomboxes were portable stereos, loud, public, a statement. If the Walkman said, "This is mine," the boombox said, "This is ours, whether you like it or not." Boomboxes were huge in the burgeoning rap, breakdancing, and street culture. Music became a shared experience again, but on your terms, not the radio stations. The downsides? Well, they were heavy and they ate C and D cell batteries like candy. And they annoyed everyone within a block's radius. And that was kind of the point. In 1982, the compact disc, or CD, finally arrived. No more big vinyl records, no more dust and scratches. Finally, pure music. But only when you were at your stereo system. It took a while before we got a usable, portable version. From the 90s, we finally got the Sony Discman. How is it better than the Walkman? Well, no rewinding. You could just skip tracks, better sound quality, and you already had a library of CDs waiting to hit the road. The Discman was great until you tried to move. You see, CDs are physical discs that spin, and if you jogged, walked too fast, or even breathed wrong, the thing would skip. So you'd end up walking like a robot trying to keep it level. In a way, it was just the digital version of vinyl with many of the same portability issues. But the writing was on the wall. The truly portable medium wasn't going to be discs, but bits. It was only a matter of time before music moved from polycarbonate to silicon. And you know where this is going. The iPod. 1,000 songs in your pocket. Ah! That was Apple's pitch in 2001, and it was revolutionary. Music stopped being things, cassettes, CDs, physical media, and started being data. Files, playlists, total control. You could carry your entire music library with you. You could shuffle, you could create playlists for every mood. You could listen to whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, with no skipping, no rewinding, no degradation. The iPod and other digital music players were when musical possibilities really became infinite. Of course, there were downsides. DRM, digital rights management, meant you owned music, but not really. Battery life was still an issue, and iTunes was, well, iTunes. But the iPod changed everything. It made music portable in a way that had never existed before. And now we're here. Streaming and wireless earbuds. Why carry a music player around with you when you can just fire up your phone and tune out? Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, AirPods, limitless music, instant access. Music is no longer something you own. It's something you rent. It's a utility, like water or electricity. You don't have to buy albums anymore. You don't even have to buy songs. Entire stores that once sold music are gone. If you're lucky, a store today will have a shelf unit or two with CDs or albums. Now you subscribe for access to everything, and if you stop paying, it all goes away. If they choose not to share it with you for whatever reason, it just goes away. And the listening experience? Completely isolated. AirPods and all the wireless earbuds that followed are the ultimate evolution of the Walkman. You can tune out the world completely. No wires, no hassle, just you and the algorithm. Speaking of which, you don't even have to choose what you listen to anymore. The algorithm does it for you. Discover Weekly, Release Radar for you, just like listening to your AM radio more than 60 years ago. The difference being that instead of a human DJ, you have a programmed bunch of code. We went from I own to I subscribe. So after all these innovations and years, what did we gain? Choice. You can listen to anything, anytime, anywhere, especially if the net is up. Convenience. No rewinding, no skipping CDs, no carrying a boombox on your shoulder. Quality. Streaming audio is better than cassettes, better than 8-tracks, better than AM. But what did we lose? Well, we lost ownership. You don't own music anymore, you rent it. And if the service shuts down or the artist pulls their catalog, it's gone. Community. Music used to be something we shared with others. Now it's something we experience alone, often while actively ignoring the people around us. There's still a little bit of the community for the biggest stars when they drop a new release, but mostly our community is me, myself, and I. Intentionality. We used to choose what we listened to. We'd buy an album, listen to it front to back, live with it. Now we skip, shuffle, and let the algorithm decide. I'm not saying streaming is bad. It's not. It's incredible in a lot of ways. I mean, all my playlists are on shuffle and repeat, so I get comfortable familiarity without monotonous predictability. But I do think we've lost something. We've lost the ritual of music, the weight of it, the sense that music was something you owned, something you invested in, not just something that played in the background while you scrolled through your phone. Of course, we also had boredom to fill and no internet to do it for us. And I talked a little about that here. For me, music has almost always been personal. It's been a soundtrack to my life. I remember my first transistor radio, my first 45. I remember my first Walkman. I remember recording mixtapes and burning CDs, and every now and then I miss the weight of the albums in my collection and the size of the art. The ritual of putting on a record or popping in a cassette or even doing surgery on a jammed 8-track. Music used to be something you did. Now it's just something that happens. So you can drown out the world's noise. And I'm not entirely sure that's a good thing. But what about you? Do you remember transistor radios, Walkmans, Discmans? Or are you a streaming native who's never owned a physical album? Do you miss the ritual of music? Or do you love the convenience of having everything at your fingertips? Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As for me, I'm ready to put on a playlist and relax after I finish recording. So I guess I better finish. So I'm CJ, and I think that I forgot to say that this is Geezer Gap at the beginning. Well, whether I did or not, it is, so help the algorithm find other people like us. Please remember that liking is groovy and subscribing is far out. See you next time.